You're listening to TC Talks on TNT.
Welcome back to another episode of TC Talks. I'm your host, TC, and today we got a great episode for you. I am merging the two videos. Yes, two becomes one becomes two. I don't know. Whatever it means you get one video instead of two, making it easier for you guys to digest what we're going to do. Predictions all together. We're going to recap the previous week. We're going to dive into next week following that. So that's how we're going to do it. Hopefully it makes it easier for you guys. So last week I did pretty good in my predictions. I believe I got 4 games wrong, 4 games out of the 13. So a little bit off. Didn't hit that double digit mark this week, which is rather unfortunate. But overall, TC still looking pretty good at the end of this week. I'm at 83, 51, and 2. Remember, 2 ties earlier in the season, and TC has been generous in not giving himself some credit. So those 2 ties, I believe they're okay. So this past week, there were a number of games that were kind of wonky. You know, the Bills getting upset, the Bears putting up quite a fight against the Dolphins. There were a number of games that really went interestingly, especially the Titans holding down the Kansas City Chiefs to only 17 points in regulation, having to get to 20 points in overtime. It's just ridiculous the amount of how much this season's up in the air, I guess is the best way to put it, because there's no clear-cut game where you think there's like, okay, there's an obvious winner. Even the Vikings seemed like they were going to choke their game away against the Commanders, but somehow were able to rebound with Kirk Cousins with that comeback in that game. So a lot of stuff that isn't the norm, like a Kirk Cousins comeback, going on within the NFL at this point. I mean, Justin Fields even looks like a seasoned starter at this point over these past few games. So a lot of toss-ups, but TC able to somehow manage on top of it, has over 30 games above 500 right now in terms of his predictions. So that's always pretty good. You want to see those numbers continue, and I hope I'm about to give you some numbers that do continue that, or should I say predictions that are going to add to those numbers. So we're going to start off with the Falcons and the Panthers, and you already know I'm totally going for the Panthers, obviously. No, we are not. That was just a gotcha. Obviously, TC is rolling with the Falcons. They took a solid loss this past week. Unfortunate for them because they put up quite a fight against a pretty good team in the Chargers. But in either case, I think they go up against this weaker Panthers team. I mean, I will give the Panthers credit. They do look a little bit more put together than they did a few weeks ago, but still, I think the Falcons are vibing. They're on some sort of frequency that is just able to put them in a spot where they're highly competitive in each one of their games. I think they get the edge in this matchup. Then the Seahawks versus the Bucks, and honestly, the Bucks might be coming off a win against the defending Super Bowl champions, but that doesn't mean much when the Super Bowl defending champions are the Los Angeles Rams. They just look absolutely terrible this year. Similar to the Bucks, I will give Tom Brady the credit. He did look a lot better in this game than the previous games where I was talking about how he looked like he should have retired, but still, I don't have faith in him to get this win over the Seahawks. Geno Smith looking absolutely incredible. Look for him and the Seahawks to be absolutely phenomenal in this matchup. Then the Bears take on the Lions, and even though a Bears loss is hoped for in terms of, you know, the fact maybe the Lions get a second win later on in the season and the Bears wrap up with a similar record to the Lions, and therefore the Lions would get the tiebreaker. So the Bears would actually get the bottom tier of the vote for the draft. So that means they'd be higher up compared to the Lions if they do get this loss. But I am predicting the Bears to get this win. However, a Chicago loss is not necessarily a bad thing. Then you have the Dolphins taking on the Browns, and the Dolphins, they are looking pretty good. Defense isn't doing too great. So if that Browns defense is able to step up, it's going to be a hard game for Tua and that offense. But overall, I think there's just too many weapons for that Browns defense to handle. And offensively, the Browns are just not looking too good as a team. Then you have the Titans taking on the Broncos. And as much as I dislike the Titans, however much I think they're overhyped this season, because there's a lot of people still saying they're a good team overall, which is true. On paper, they do have the ability to function and do show as a good team. A number of these teams in the NFL do. However, like so many of these teams in the NFL, they look good on paper, but for whatever reason, it's not transferring to the gridiron. I want the Tennessee Titans to succeed, especially Ryan Tannehill, who's probably in one of his last few seasons. It's his last hurrah to try to get over that hump to be able to get to those deeper playoff runs and perhaps a Super Bowl this time around. But I really don't see that being the case for the Tennessee Titans. I think that it's going to be an easy win against the Broncos team, who has a quarterback play worse than them and just overall looks like a mess, except for on the defensive side on the ball. They look absolutely stellar. So I think it's going to be a tough game, but I do have to give it to the Titans in this one. Then the Bills take on the Vikings, and this is the hardest game to call, 7 days, 6 days, whatever it is out into the game, because there's been an injury, as you may know, to Josh Allen. And if Josh Allen doesn't play this game, I would like to give the game to Kirk Cousins and the Minnesota Vikings. However, if Josh Allen, even if he is a little banged up, even if he can't necessarily throw as much as he's been privy to, I think they're able to rely on the running game, both of Josh Allen and the running backs that they do have. I know they have a weaker running game, but this could be the game that really decides their fate. If they're able to pull something off, especially with the running game, especially even if Allen is out and they have to rely on that running game. I know that, again, it's not a strong running game. They have been unable to really get it going the whole season. But if they're able to stay true, maybe pick up a few rocky wins with a running attack that really is able to take over, if they're able to get a 100-yard rusher, I think that spells a lot of good things for this Bills team. Now, I know they're coming off a bad loss. 2 in a row would be pretty devastating. However, I think it's a lot to say, the power rankings really mean all that much. The Eagles, they could go undefeated the whole regular season, just like the New England Patriots did with Tom Brady, and still fall short in the final game that matters most. So that is the situation that Josh Allen and the Bills find themselves in. They're in a bunch of close contests. They're making mistakes. They know to correct those mistakes, having done them already. So if the Eagles go into the playoffs never making those mistakes, never having close games, which I'm not saying they haven't, they've had close games, but if they've never had to overcome that next echelon, it comes into question whether they're going to be a true contender, which is what the Bills are going through right now. Their whole team is going to have to step up if Josh Allen is out. If Josh Allen is injured, whole team has to step up. Like I just said, the running game is going to have to be a bigger factor. That offensive line is going to have to pull their weight and really push to get them over the edge. So personally, I think this is going to be a true test of that character. Everybody said the Bills are so stacked, even at punter, back when that terrible person was their punter. We're not even going to bother to bring up his name. But in either case, the Bills really need to put that on display, that they are, in fact, stacked at every spot of the ball, both defensively and offensively. If the quarterback play comes down to being the issue, then you could say that's a win for the Bills, even if they do lose. But I am predicting they win, because I am also predicting Josh Allen plays. If Josh Allen does not play, I give it to the Minnesota Vikings. So then the Giants take on the Texans. And let's be honest, the Texans are really bad. The Giants rolling along this season, doing a phenomenal job. Nobody was expecting something like this. So a shout out to them for just totally running away with this season. Then the Chiefs take on the Jags. And let's be honest, Trevor Lawrence may have gotten a win in the last week, but he is not going to do it against Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs. It's unfortunate, but Patrick Mahomes is just fantastic. That Chiefs team stacked, especially offensively. So even if the Jags are able to make it a little bit competitive, which I'm hoping for, just because Trevor Lawrence did pick up a win, just because Trevor Lawrence did look a little bit better than he had in previous weeks in this most recent game, I still got to give it to the Chiefs, even if Trevor Lawrence has a good game. Then the Saints take on the Steelers, and I wanted to go with Steelers in this game so bad, but For whatever reason, I find myself going with the Saints and Andy Dalton, despite knowing better than to go with the Red Ryder BB gun. However, I just like the way the team's playing right now. I like the coaching. I like everything like that. So I'm going with the Saints overall. Then the Colts go and face the Raiders. And as much as I want to go against the Colts in this matchup, I have to go with them. The Raiders just look too bad, too many mistakes, just no offensive protection. Defense is looking pretty shisty as well. So I got to go with the Colts, who at least have some things rolling for them in terms of both sides of the ball. Offensively, the run game's not fantastic, but it's there. It exists. They have the potential for it. They have the weapons, and defensively, they're not too shabby. They're able to get some stops on defense. It's a pretty middle of the road defense, I would say. So they got that going for them. The Raiders, similar situation. They have Devontae Adams. Derek Carr likes to be good every now and then, but I just feel more comfortable going with the Saints in this one. Then you have the Rams taking on the Cardinals, and I know Kyler Murray is really starting to emerge as a decent quarterback. He's getting back into his groove. However, I just feel like the Rams defense is going to be too much of a challenge for him in this one. I'm going to go with the aging, no stat padding this year for him, Matthew Stafford and the Los Angeles Rams. Then the Cowboys take on the Packers, and honestly, do I even need to say that the Cowboys win? The Cowboys obviously win. All right, thank you. Next, to quote Ariana Grande. Then we're going to go to the 49ers taking on the Chargers, and I love the Chargers. I think that Justin Herbert is finally hitting that stride again. He put up a good performance last week, but I don't think he's going to be able to replicate that against a solid 49ers defense. And then you have Jimmy Garoppolo coming back, his handsomeness leading that team. It's going to look like a good game. Then you have the Eagles taking on the Commanders, and honestly, I love Taylor Heinicke. I hope he keeps rolling at the quarterback position, but even if that is the case, the Eagles undefeated. I see them to remain that way, and just because they're on a bye, and just because I counted them out, let me just say, Josh Allen might be able to start a fire underwater, but he is not able to do so covered in sauce, especially when that sauce is the young gravy coming out of his mother after Zach Wilson came by. Until next time, this has been TC with TC Talks.